Hi, this is Eric Lofholm, and welcome to another edition of the podcast, I Love Selling. And I have another fantastic guest today. Today I have Marguerite Crespillo, who is one of the top real estate agents that I've ever met. And I've had the privilege of literally meeting thousands and thousands of agents because I'm a professional sales trainer. She has done over 100 transactions a year for 17 years in a row. Her best year, she topped out at 226 transactions, made her number 7 in California, number 66 in the nation. And so Marguerite's like me. She's got her sleeves rolled up. She's in the trenches, and she has been for many, many years. So when she's sharing ideas with you today, it's coming from a depth of experience and also a consistent track record of producing outstanding results. Marguerite, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric. Such an honor.
All right. Well, tell me, how did you become a top producing real estate agent? Did you just right out of the chute, you excelled to the top, or was there a process along the way? Tell us, kind of walk us through that process.
You know, it's kind of funny because I never really actually had the intention of getting into real estate. I had been a cocktail waitress and done a whole bunch of which I think cocktail waitressing and waitressing in general is like some of the best sales training you could ever get because you deal with such unique types of people. But I was doing that. My husband was in the mortgage business, and he said, hey, why don't you get your real estate license, because refi mania was going on. This was back in the 90s when real estate had dropped, the interest rates had dropped to an all-time low of 8%, right? We all kind of complain now when they're 4 and 5, and we were happy to get 8%. So I got my real estate license and started doing loans and really did not like that at all. I did it for about a year and figured out that was not a good fit for me. And so a friend of mine, the guy who had sold us our house, was looking for an assistant. So I went to work as an assistant for him. And like typical agents, he would get super busy and he'd say, you know, Marguerite, just take care of things. And so I kind of got thrown into the fire to try and figure out what to do. And I went to him one day and I said, the phone is ringing and these people want to see a house. He goes, well, go show it to them. So I went and showed it to him and I called him up. I'm like, they want to write an offer. And he's like, well, write an offer. I'm like, I've never written an offer. And so I wrote up offers and I ended up selling 18 houses in my first 6 months, which is pretty cool. And I figured out I found my calling. That was it. I absolutely loved selling real estate. It was really exciting. And I loved working with the people and helping them accomplish their real estate goals. So from there, I jumped into a coaching group at the time, which was one of the best moves I made. I was a brand new agent, had my company open just a few months, and I joined a group at that time called By Referral Only with Joe Stump, where he taught really how to build referral-based businesses. And I'll tell you, for any of you guys that are brand new, the absolute best thing you can do is to get a coach, to get somebody. Get into Eric's training, get into training somehow, but start working with somebody to help you organize and build your business. It was the best thing I did. And that really taught me the value and the importance of my database and really building relationships and how important those relationships would be. And I'm here to tell you that that is probably my number one success key, is that I've been consistent in mailing to my database and staying in contact with those relationships for, well, now it's been 22 years. I got licensed December of 93. So.
Fantastic. So one thing I want to really key in on that you said, and I think it is so important, is you said you found your calling. And one of the ways that I describe that is a distinction called energy advantage. And so energy advantage is just another way of saying, what are your natural gifts and talents? And then if you can align your natural gifts and talents with your business, then you can elevate it to a whole new level of success. And so for me, you know, my natural gifting is around public speaking, encouraging others, and teaching. And so I took those skill sets and I've wrapped my business around those skill sets. And sometimes people, another thing I want to piggyback on that you said is sometimes people are selling the wrong product. So, you know, here you were in the loan business, and let's just say you just, I got to figure this out, and you just tried to power through it, yet the key for you is just finding another product to sell, real estate, and that really elevated your results. So that was a great thing to share. How do you sell 100 homes in a year? I mean, that's an extraordinary number, and then to do it for 17 years in a row, what does it take to produce that kind of a result?
Well, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, the key is, frankly, of course, providing great service, extraordinary service to the people that you initially work with, getting referrals from those people, and staying in contact. You know, I heard some interesting statistics the other day that 90% of consumers don't reuse the agent that they used when they originally purchased or sold a home. And the reason for that is because the agent never stayed in contact with them. So they bought their house, closed on the deal, and it's almost like the agent broke up with them, right? They got their commission check and they moved on. They never followed up with that client. They never, stayed in contact. They never mailed to them. They never did anything. And so then, when the average consumer sells their home 5 to 7 years down the road, they've long since forgot about the agent that originally helped them. Even though they might have had a great experience, they never followed up with them. And so for me, I've done several things. My business is very relationship-based. Every month I mail what they call a letter of the heart, a little story about me and my life, and I have kids, so I have material for days. And I send that little letter out. It's kind of like your Christmas letter, but consolidated. And I send that out to my database every single month. I consistently ask for referrals from every client that I work with. And my objective with every client is to get 2 referrals during the process. So 1 client, 2 referrals can easily start to the compound effect, if you're familiar with the compound effect, starts to build a business. Now, of course, in the beginning, I didn't have that many clients, but I would do open houses. Every place I would go and everybody I would meet, I would add them to my database, no matter who they were. Whether they were a sales trainer like you, Eric, or whether they were another real estate agent or a business owner, or just somebody I met in the grocery store, my kids' baseball team, parents and friends, everybody I would meet. So my objective every single week was to add anywhere from 15 to 20 names a week to my database. And I knew that if I consistently added that many people to my database and they continued to get my mail every single month and they were in my drip campaigns and follow-up campaigns, that eventually they would do business with me. And that has worked for me. So I really, truly take care of my database. To me, it is the absolute most valuable thing that I own.
When you set up your drip campaign or your follow-up systems, so you're doing direct mail once a month, but probably not the whole database, just a certain, like you've categorized this group gets a letter once a month, or maybe it is the whole database. Can you just kind of walk through some of the nuts and bolts of your process?
So the interesting thing is that I don't discriminate, right? So when I put somebody in my database, I have no idea if they're going to buy or sell in many situations right away. I mean, some people, obviously, you're right now business, you're right now clients. But when I meet somebody, for the most part, I put them in my database, and I don't differentiate. I send everybody that letter. And right now I'm sending about 1,400 a month that I have their physical address. I also do an email newsletter at the beginning of each month. So that actually goes to more people because I have more email addresses than I do physical addresses. And I send those out every single month. So because here's the thing, too. Maybe it was somebody that I met in a grocery store, threw them into my database, completely forgot about them. And if I don't stay in contact with them in some consistent way, they'll totally forget about me. Just because they're in my database doesn't mean that they remember who I am. So
yeah,
it's
interesting that you're
send that out.
It's interesting you're mentioning this, because if you said to me, Eric, what's been the key to your business, I'd say my database as well. Back in 2001, 2002, I had a marketing expert named Robert Imbriali, and he says, Eric, you've got to build an email list. And at the time, I was fighting him on it. I'm like, I'm an offline business, Robert. I meet with people. I coach them. I'm not an internet guy. And he's like, no, Eric, we're all internet guys now. That's where we're headed. And he got me to set up an email list. And so I email my list with regularity, and that's been the number one driver of business for me, staying in contact with people. So it's interesting that both you and I have, that's been a really, really key driver. And so let's talk about referrals, because, I've trained in your office before. Marguerite lives in the same town that I do. We're in this little town called Rockland, California, just outside of Sacramento, and so we've known each other for many, many years. And you have shared this story a couple of times about the referral tree and how one lead turns into all kinds of referrals. So can you just talk about that story and any training points you want to make about it?
For sure. So the interesting thing I think many people do is that they don't really give credit to the potential for what somebody does in business with you. Or let's look at it a different way. A better way to say it is what the lifetime value of somebody is. So what happened is I met this little gal named Linda Buckmaster at an open house, and she ended up working with me and bought a $50,000 HUD home back in 1997. Now, if you're in real estate, a $50,000 sale is not really much of a sale, right? Most agents wouldn't even waste their time or bother with a sale so low. The commission at the end of the day was about $1,500 before my split with my broker at the time. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I've stayed in contact. Linda Buckmaster today, now what is that, 18 years later, sorry, I got something in my throat, is actually still a client of mine, just recently sold another one of her homes. But her referral tree, her lifetime value, is 8 levels deep, consists of over 65 referrals, and has generated over $300,000 in commissions since 1997. So, and when I say 8 levels deep, it means Linda referred Dan, and Dan referred Sally, and Sally referred Bob, and Bob referred, right, kind of on all of those levels. And so I think that people don't really take the time to pay attention to somebody's lifetime value. Not only has Linda been the point of contact for all of those referrals, but she personally has sold, I think now, 6 homes through me.
Wow.
In those 17 years. So just her personal lifetime value, if you don't even take that into consideration, all of the people that are a part of her referral tree. So for many of us, again, we're not even staying in contact, much less paying attention to how much value somebody brings to your business. And,
yeah, so I want to jump in and make 2 quick points here. And so one is that I like to think about business in terms of thinking in combinations. So if you think about iTunes and Apple's strategy, so iTunes integrates, of course, with the iPhone and the Mac laptop computer and the iPad, and so it's an integrated strategy that all works together. So if you take what you're talking about with referrals, but then you take the first idea you talked about, which is the database. So Linda refers you to Mary, and Linda's in your database, so she keeps getting your mailer. And now you have Mary in your database, and now Mary's getting your mailer. And so it's the referral, but then it's also you staying in contact with them to really cement in their mind that you're their agent for any future referrals or any of their needs, and it really enhances the whole referral strategy. And there's another golden nugget in what you're talking about, and this is something that I think so many people miss, and it's not intuitive, but it's easy. And it's to become, in this context for real estate, become somebody's real estate solution for life. So you go to meet with them, and tell me if this is true, Marguerite, for you, is that you're not just there to help them buy a home or list a home. You absolutely want to do that, but you're there for all the future referrals and all the future business down the road, and that comes across in when you're with them. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I tell them, I go, I don't care which house you buy. You have to live there, not me, right? My job is to help guide you through the process and help you make decisions that are best for you and your family, not only for now, but for down the road. Down the road when things change. You know, people's lives change, circumstances change, all kinds of stuff happens. And they really need somebody that they can trust to help guide them through that process. So
here's where this is. Let me just jump in for a second. Here's where this is practical for all of you. So I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a professional sales trainer. So my intention when I do business with somebody is to be their sales training solution for life. Now, a little different than real estate in the sense that you wouldn't have 3 different real estate agents that you're working with for life. You'd have one in the sales training space. My clients, they'll train with many other trainers. I just want to be one of their trainers, and this is why I've set my programs up as lifetime programs. I set the intention right from the get-go to be their sales training solution for life. And if you're listening to me right now and you're not setting up that intention, no matter what you sell, this could be a $100,000 or more idea for you. You look at Joe Girard, who's in the Guinness Book of World Records for most car sales. The guy used to average 100 units a month, which has never been done before in car sales, one-to-one sales. That's what Joe Girard did. He became their car buying solution for life. And would you agree with me, Marguerite, that probably most agents don't set up that intention from the get-go?
Honestly, I would say probably 90% or more. And the problem with that, and it's not just real estate agents, this can apply to anyone in any business, is that the majority of people are very short-sighted in their business. They're looking for right now business, right? They're looking for someone who's going to, buy from them right now so that they can go earn a commission. They're not looking at the long-term relationship or the compound effect. It's kind of like you get $100 and you go throw it in your bank account and you're like, cool, I got $100. Well, if you never add to that $100 and you never do anything with that $100 or invest it in anything, that $100 just sits there. And pretty soon it's going to burn a hole in your pocket and you're going to spend it and it's going to be gone. Versus creating a system where you can consistently add $100 a week or $100 a month or whatever that process is. And over a 20-year period of time, I'm sure you've read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, where he talks about taking a penny, right? And you take a penny and you double it. So now tomorrow you have 2 pennies. Then you double it again. Now you have 4 pennies. And when you start to build that, within a very short period of time, I want to say 30 days, you've got millions of dollars in an account. But many people are just focused on what's the right now business. And I think it's so vitally important that you have to set that stage, and your intention has to be that you're really here to take care of that client for whatever they need, as long as you plan on staying in business or as long as they're around. And I just think too many people don't make that intention, and then they don't follow through with it. It all sounds great, like when somebody looks at me now and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like that vision of an overnight success. Well, an overnight success has put in 20 years and millions of hours and screwed up a lot, and but I just kept moving along and kept following what I felt was best. Business is about relationships, any kind of business, whether it's real estate, whether it's sales, whether you're selling widgets. It's about building those relationships, and then you have to maintain them. You have to take care of them and stay in contact with them so that they know that they're important to you.
Excellent. Let's shift gears and talk about work ethic for a little bit. And how important would you say work ethic has played into your success?
I think that it's huge. I think that my brother says it best. I don't know who originally said the quote, but he says, everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. So they all want the results. They all want to have what you have, but they don't want to put in the work. And in real estate, at least, what you do today many times is 90 days out. So we don't get instant results. We're not paid for time, right? We're not paid $10 an hour or $12 an hour, whatever that is. We're paid on results, which means you've got to put in the time to help somebody get the results or to accomplish the results that you really want to do. And I think that most salespeople in many times are attracted to a sales-type business because they want flexibility and freedom. They don't want a job per se. And for many of them, they're not really willing to put in the time and the work. So the best way that I try to explain it to people is if you want to make $100,000 a year and you're the boss of you, So you are the CEO of you, and every month you have to write a check for $8,333 to your employee you. Would you be willing to write yourself a check for the efforts that you put in the last 30 days based on you getting a $100,000 salary? Like, how long as a CEO of a business would you continue to pay someone like you? So if you're really putting in the effort and you think that you're worth that and you're not getting results, then you need to go get coached and get some training. But for many people, they're just not even putting in the work. They get up here's a typical open house for a real estate agent. So a typical open house, a real estate agent holds open from maybe 1 to 4, right, or 12 to 3. So they get up on a Saturday afternoon, they lollygag around, they go into the office probably about 11, they maybe print out a few flyers, they go out and they put up 3 or 4 signs, and then they park their hiney in an open house and they wonder why nobody's there. They do it for about 3 hours and they pack up and leave. So in the best case scenario, a real estate agent for an open house put in 5 hours. That's not even a full workday. And they didn't really put in all the effort to make sure that people are going to show up to that event, to that open house. So frankly, most salespeople are lazy. And the most part, they're not really willing to do the work. They're great out of the gate, and then they peter out about, halfway through the day. They don't make their calls. They don't consistently mail. They don't update their database. They don't follow through. And I think that applies to most businesses. When you look at who the top salespeople are, 90% of the time you will see those salespeople either in their office getting stuff done, or they got appointments lined up all day back to back to back. And they're working. If you were to follow me around or follow Eric around with a video camera, what would you see us doing? Well, I have to laugh because Eric and I met for coffee the other day. And I pull into the parking lot, and I'm on the phone, and I'm kind of looking for him. So I'm talking to a client and trying to get that last couple minutes in before I have to meet with him. And I look across the parking lot, and Eric is doing the same thing. So both of us are trying to wrap up calls. We zip into the coffee house, and we, and hustle in and make sure that we get all of our points highlighted and get everything out in 30 minutes. And both of us are like, we're on to our next appointment. That's success to me. Those are people that are getting it done and are working hard and producing extraordinary results.
Yeah, you make a really great point, and the coffee meeting is a great example. And so I'm just going to share what Marguerite just said one more time. So we had, I think we were meeting at 9:30, and so we had this appointment scheduled at 9:30. And so I had a 9 to 9:30, but it was a phone call. So I got to the coffee shop early. I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I'm doing my call. And then Marguerite pulls up, and she's doing the same thing. She's talking to her 9 o'clock. And so there was this kind of connection of, here we are, these top producers in our little town, and we're doing the deal. And so then we went and we had our coffee meeting, which was a very, very productive meeting. And then boom, right at 10 o'clock, okay, I'm on to my next call. I went out and did my call, and Marguerite went to her next appointment. And this is how our days are. It's run by calendars. It's run by appointments. And this is what top producers do. They load up their calendar with high productive appointments, high productive activities. The podcast that Marguerite and I are doing right now, this is an interesting thing for all of you to think about, is looking for ways to create leverage in your business. So when you set up a database and you're mailing your database like what Marguerite's describing, you're getting leverage because she's having 1,400 marketing touches and 4,000 email marketing touches, whatever the email number is. If she's doing one email a month and one letter a month, and she might even have a higher frequency than that, she's got 5,400 marketing touches that if somebody else was doing it all over the phone, she's way ahead of them before she's even made her first phone call. And that's an example of leverage. And so like this podcast, it is an example of leverage for both of us. It's an example of leverage in that I'm interviewing Marguerite, and then she'll be sharing the podcast with her network. Well, then that will bring new people to me. I'll be sharing the podcast with my network. That'll bring new exposure to Marguerite. And then we're leveraging iTunes because iTunes has a directory where people are looking for content. these are all examples of leverage, and it's a way of thinking. So I wasn't born thinking in leverage. My background is I was a cook at McDonald's. Like I made $6 an hour working at McDonald's. I didn't know leverage back then. So this is a very, very important thing. Marguerite has tremendous leverage in her business. I have tremendous leverage in my business. And that's what I love about this podcast, is that I get to bring you guys awesome, amazing people that are out there in the marketplace really, really making it happen. I want to ask you one more question, Marguerite, and then I want to have you share how people can get in touch with you. I know you do a lot of coaching with real estate agents, and you have different ways that you mentor them so they can learn your system. So for any of you agents out there listening, you really want to get connected with Marguerite and learn how you can best benefit from all of her wisdom and expertise. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about technology and how technology's changed in the real estate business. It used to be that if I was going to look up a property on the MLS, I had to go through the agent. I didn't, as a consumer, didn't have access to that. Social media, apps. How would you say real estate has changed because of technology, and how is it the same?
Well, I will say that I believe in some ways it's the same, right? Real estate is about relationships, like we mentioned earlier, and how many of them you have and how well you connect and how well you stay in contact with them. The great thing about technology is that it has taken that opportunity and put it on steroids, right? So, 20 years ago when I first started building my database, our only option was to snail mail. That was it. There wasn't even email. And so you had to, snail mail every single month to your database, or you had to stay in contact that way. I mean, frankly, we didn't even have cell phones when I first started getting into real estate, but now I'm aging myself. But the reality is that now with social media, there's the good and the bad of it. For example, I have a Facebook group I created recently called Real Estate Success Strategies and Accountability. And I put a challenge out to the people in that group yesterday or a couple days ago to physically call and talk to 5 of their clients, 5 of their past clients. And I had to include in that message. That doesn't mean text them. That doesn't mean Facebook them. That doesn't mean shoot them an email. That it means actually physically talk to somebody. And that part has gotten more and more challenging for people as social media has really come about and changed the way we do business. I can literally do a real estate transaction within minutes, having not even seen a house. I had a past client who called me and said, "Hey, Marguerite, I found this house. I'm ready to buy it." I said, "Okay, we haven't even shown it." They said, "Oh, I saw it on an open house." So I wrote up the offer, emailed it to them. They digitally signed the contract, sent the contract back over to the agent, never even spoke to the real estate agent during the real estate transaction. Now, I don't think that that's the best way to go, but that's possible. But the only reason I got that client was because I'd built a relationship with them. So I know that many agents out there have been worried about Zillow and Trulia and all of this stuff. And are some agents going to lose business because of that? Yeah. But for those who build their business right, I'm not even worried. I've built my business on relationships. So when you build your business right, you really don't have competition, because somebody who's going to work with me because they know me, like me, and trust me is never even going to call you. They're never even going to show up on the radar. So that's really the importance of building those strong relationships. And technology is there. It can make our lives easier. I've connected with more of my clients on Facebook than ever I've been able to. So I'm able to kind of see what's going on in their lives and what's happening with them and if I can help them. So there are a lot of positives to that. But at the end of the day, people are craving a connection. And that connection comes from actually somebody's voice, either that personal touch, that personal connection, that tone in your voice that lets them know that you genuinely care about them. I think that that's really the most important thing you can do.
Excellent. How can people get in touch with you? They loved what you shared today. They want to get in touch with you with more. I know you have a podcast, for example, and I know that you have different ways that people can reach you. So share with everybody how they can get connected to you.
Yes, I have a podcast on iTunes called Real Estate Real World that people are free to download. I've interviewed, just like you, I love to interview cool people. So it's not always real estate related, but it's all kinds of different people. I also have a website called myfreerealestatetools.com where you can go and you can stay updated on what I have going on. And we're just in the process of putting together a package for you where you'll have, hundreds of dollars of free tools at your fingertips that you can use. And on there also you'll see the Facebook group I created that you're welcome to request to join. It's a closed group, but it's Real Estate Success Strategies and Accountability. And we have about 140 members in that group right now, and it's been really fun. There's been some exciting stuff going on, great ideas, insight, input, and kind of holding you accountable a little bit. So it's really great.
Fantastic. So give those three again. Tell us about the podcast, the website, and the Facebook group.
So on iTunes, you can look up Real Estate Real World with Marguerite Crespillo. You can also, and you can subscribe to that and review it, would be fabulous. You can also go to myfreerealestatetools.com where you can go there and check out what I've been doing and add your name to the list. And shortly here we'll be sending out some free tools for people who've signed up. And there's also a Facebook group, a private Facebook group called Real Estate Success Strategies and Accountability. And go there and request to join that group. It's a super powerful group. It's free, so you don't have to spend any money to do it. And you can get some great ideas and tips and tricks on things that you can use right now in your business.
Fantastic. Well, Marguerite, thanks so much for adding so much value on this interview. There were some tremendous ideas that were shared. And I want to thank all of you, the listeners, for listening. Because of you, you make this show possible. And I look forward to connecting with all of you on our next podcast. And I would appreciate it if you would help get the word out and let others know in your network about this podcast, the I Love Selling podcast. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next show. Bye for now.